When writing my resume, should I tailor my responses to the job for which I'm applying, or should I include all my experience? So that is a tricky question, because you want to make sure that your resume has the skills needed and wanted for the position that you're applying for. You don't want to put information on the resume or waste your resume space on information that's not relevant. A good example, I'll use myself as a good example. I have a lot of experience in human resources. I have a lot of experience in social service. If I'm going for a position in social service, I don't put a lot of human resource information on there because they don't care. They want to know about my social service. If I'm going for a human resource position, I don't put a lot of social service because they don't care. I may put I've worked there and maybe a little bit, but I'm going to focus on the human resource, or I'm going to focus on social service. I used to be a cashier at a grocery store in Augusta called Buy Low. That is not on my resume unless I'm going for a position as a cashier. It is not relevant in human resources. It is not relevant in social service unless I'm applying for a position that has to do with cashier. So you want to put information that's relevant to the job you are applying. The next question: what makes an employee a good asset to the company? Every employer is looking for employees who are loyal, who aren't problem employees, who come in and do their job and add. So what makes a good asset is that you coming in there, you are taking on responsibility, you are volunteering to take on more things and following through with that. So you want to volunteer, follow through, do a good job on that. So you don't just want to take on stuff and not do a good job. So you want to take on stuff. You want to show that, hey, I'm here, I'm loyal, I want to be with this company, I want to move up with this company. So that is what makes a good asset to an employee for what employer is looking for. How should you best answer the question, what is your greatest accomplishment, and what should be focused on when you're answering that question? That's a good question, because what is your greatest accomplishment? When you have an interview, before the interview, you want to come up with some of your highlights. Come up with some of your career highlights so you can have something to talk about when you go on the interview. Have what you've already done, have the goals that you hit, etc. So you want to say things that was meaningful to the company, not maybe just to you, but meaningful to the company. So again, before the interview, you want to have a list of different highlights, things you've accomplished. So when they can say, tell me what you did on your last job, you want to hit the compliments. You want to talk about your highlights. So that's what you want to focus on when you're answering the question. What is the best way to answer weakness questions in an interview? So you always want to we all have weaknesses. I can go down the block with mine and come back up. But in an interview, I'm not going to just list one weakness after the other, because you want to highlight your strengths. So you don't want to say, I don't have any weaknesses, I'm perfect, because we all know that's not true. Highlight a weakness that relates to the position. A good example, when I'm interviewing for an HR position and they say, can you tell me about your weakness? My weakness for this position would be, I don't know your policy and procedures. Because I don't. It's a new company. I don't know anything about you. However, so you always follow up with a strength. I'm a strong learner. I'm very well versed in policies as it relates to human resources. So I may not know your specific policy procedure, but I'm a fast learner. Again, I'm very well versed in policy and procedures as it relates to human resources. So you follow back up with a strength. Never, ever leave the person just with your weakness. Never leave them with that. Follow right back up with the strength. So when you talk about your weakness, let it relate to the position, and not so much of what you can do, your default. But, how am I supposed to know your policy procedures? I've never worked there. I've never seen them. So that would be my weakness. So you want to make sure you come back with something like that, not something that you can't learn or can't get. If I am lucky enough to be called into an interview for a job that I do not have experience, how can I still get the job? Well, If you are called for an interview for a job that you have no experience, can you still get the job? Yes, you can. If they called you, if they saw your resume and said she don't have no experience, but I'm going to call her in anyway, yes, you still can get the job. Your resume gets you the interview. Your interview skills land you the job. I know someone who talks a lot, and she does talk a lot. She can talk her way into any job, whether she has experience or not. I've seen it in amazement myself because she talked so much that she can talk her way into the job. If you don't have experience, you need to talk about what you can do. So every job, you can get there on time. You're a loyal employee. You get to work on time. You focus on your work. Those are things that it's not even talking about skills. Those are just work ethics. I get to work on time always. I don't cause trouble at work. Once I learn how to do something, I'll do it the exact way those are things that an employer wants to hear. And if you don't have experience, those are the things that you need to be laying on. I get to work on time. I work hard. I'm not a gossiper. I'm focused on my work. Whatever you ask me to do, I can do it. I volunteer for things. That's what you want to say. That's what you want to hear because you may not have experience. I always, when I'm training a specific company and we're talking about getting a new job or interviews, I always ask, who is the newest employee here? And somebody will raise their hand and say, well, I've been here 2 months. So I'll say, sit right here. Who is the oldest employee here? Who's been here the longest? That person stands up and raises their hand because they're proud and they sit right here. And then I give the example of, I'm going to interview you. Why would I pick the person who's brand new, knows nothing, over the person who's been here 20 years and can run this department in her sleep? Both of them are a good catch. And I'm going to give you examples. So the new person, she don't know bad habits. She don't have clicks because she's new. However I tell her to do it, that's the way she's going to do it. She's going to do it the way she's taught because she's new and she doesn't know any better. The person that's been here 20 years, I don't have to train them. They know what to do. They can run the department. They've been doing it for 20 years. So I don't have to train that person. However, they may take shortcuts or back cuts. They may gossip and get people stirred up. So both of them could be a good catch. And depending on who interviews better will determine who do I pick. The person who's brand new, knows nothing. Now I got to train that person. But once I train them, they're going to do everything the exact way I want them to. Or the person who knows how to do everything. She already knows how. I don't have to do anything. Now, she may take shortcuts. She may do things I wouldn't do the way I wouldn't do them. She may have clicks and keep people riled up, but she could do her job. It comes down to who can interview the best. So if you get called into an interview, period, whether you have a lot of experience, whether you have a little bit of experience, you have a chance. You have a chance to sell yourself. I'm going to give one more story on that. I was interviewing a young man who is now executive director, but I was interviewing a young man for a case manager position, case coordinator position. It wasn't a manager, case coordinator position. He had very little experience. So in the end, when it was over, I liked him. He was nice enough. And he interviewed, well enough. He stood up and he said, I know I may not have a lot of experience, but I promise you, if you will give me a chance, I won't disappoint you. He said, he looked me in my eyes and said, it was two of us, looked me in my eyes and said that. I offered him the job. He moved up. Now he's an executive director. You don't have to have a lot of experience if you get into the interview because you can sell yourself to be able to get that position. Because a lot of times, especially when you're interviewing with a human being, it is the human part that picks you anyway. So when you're in an interview, you can sell yourself up or you can sell yourself down. Ever appropriate to accept food or drinks before, during, or after an interview? And the answer to that is no. Because you are not there for snacks. You're not there for a meal. You're not even there to drink water. When they offer you a coffee or soda or water, you should always say no, thank you. For many reasons, but you're nervous. You don't need coffee breath. You don't want to spill water or liquid or food on your shirt, and you haven't even gotten in the room because they offered you something to eat. During the interview, same thing. You don't want to waste coffee or water or tea on the table because you'll be remembered, but not in a good way. You don't want to waste it on the table or somebody's computer. You don't want to leave a stain from the cup on their desk. Afterwards, you don't want to look like you can't get you something to eat on your way out. So it's never a good idea ever to eat or drink or chew gum, which is my favorite, chewing gum, in an interview. People can see and hear. Even a phone interview, you shouldn't be eating or chewing gum or drinking any liquids during an interview, because believe it or not, the person on the other end can hear you. So food, drink, or water is not acceptable.